We often hear in terms of media and consumerism culture, but does it really? Is it sex sells, or is it sexual exploitation that sells? Well, reality is sexual exploitation that sells. Standing in front of you here today is an anti-porn activist, and there's one thing in this world that should change, is that pornography should be banned. Simplified, porn harms in 3 main ways. It impacts the brain, the heart, and the world. So, first off, porn is no longer just a moral issue. It is a health issue. There's neuroscientific evidence that shows that when a person views even a little bit of porn, it negatively impacts the frontal lobe of the brain, which is in charge of moral thinking, self-control, decision-making, and memory retention. So porn is like a drug, and when a viewer views, say, live action pornography or even animated pornography, the lot of chemicals in the brain gets released, and it binds to these false images, which may then lead to porn addiction. And unfortunately, it's becoming a widespread problem today. And porn also shapes children's minds. It gives them negative influences on their sexualities and their future choices. As well, it's a reason why a lot of kids nowadays get involved with sexual matters at an early age, before adulthood. More often than not, porn contains taboo themes such as incest, pedophilia, rape, and infidelity. And when a person first views these types of porn, in their minds they're probably thinking, this is disgusting, it's immoral, it's just wrong. But eventually, over time, their brain starts to think that, oh, okay, these things are so bad after all. And eventually, the person may become bored of these materials and eventually move on to more hardcore porn. So this ties in with porn addiction. And so porn can definitely impact the morality of humanity. And on to my next point on how pornography negatively impacts the heart. So there's this woman who approached me on Facebook and sent me a private message telling me her story about how her ex-husband's use of porn destroyed her relationship entirely. And eventually he moved on to violent-themed pornography. And that became his sexual fantasies. And eventually he acted those sexual fantasies on her to the point where she nearly ended up in the hospital. And from there, the relationship broke up. So this is one of the few cases where porn can damage sex lives and relationships. And hence why porn kills love. This is a shirt that I purchased from an anti-porn movement called Fight the New Drug. And so, moving on to my last point on how pornography negatively impacts the world. Most of us here knows that the porn industry is a multi-billion-dollar business. And pornography influences our culture. It leaks through our culture in our ads, our video games, our social media, our magazines. And the problem for that is it promotes unrealistic sexual standards and physical standards. And so pornography can also harm families. There's Australian court studies that says approximately 65% of divorces happen because of porn obsession. And that's more than half of the divorce cases. As well, pornography is becoming a pandemic. And some people may say that banning pornography goes against our freedom of rights, but just think about it. Consuming porn abuses our freedom of rights on health and having an everlasting, meaningful relationship. So, in conclusion, overall, porn is bad for the brain, the heart, and it is also bad for the world. And in conclusion, porn should be banned. And after this presentation, I'm gonna write on the board a few websites, and I highly encourage you guys to take a picture, write these down in your notes, sign the petitions, join the cause, because taking action will improve our humanity. And there's one solution, it's revolution, and thank you for listening.